recording now and you can start the meeting. You're ready.
Okay, great. All right. Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank you all for joining us tonight. This is a community meeting for SP 2021 00002. No, it's not. It's 0009 Natural Burial Ground at Panorama Farms. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with Emergency Ordinance number 20A-16, an emergency ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster and open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act. In attendance tonight are myself, Mariah Gleason, Senior Planner from Albemarle County, and lead reviewer of this application. And listening in with us tonight should be Planning Commissioner Daniel Bailey, and we are also joined by Supervisor Ned Galloway. As we begin, I just want to thank everyone that's participating online and over the phone. During the Q&A portion of this meeting, towards the end of the meeting, we invite you to share your comments or questions by clicking the raise hand button at the bottom of your toolbar. This will notify the meeting facilitator that you would like to speak and you will be placed in the queue. If you're joining us by phone, you press *9 to raise your hand and will be placed in the queue to speak. I'll repeat these instructions again when we get to the Q&A portion of the agenda. So to start, I'm just going to do a presentation introducing what a special use permit is, how the county reviews it, and a little bit of information and context for this specific special use permit. So if you'll bear with me, I'm going to pull up my presentation. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Verbal confirmation. So if you've attended a community meeting in the past year, this presentation may look very familiar to you. We use a standard template when talking about special use permits and similar projects at community meetings. The purpose of community meetings is to provide a space to share information about the proposed project, the development review process, and relevant policies and regulations. It's also to solicit public input on the proposed project. A summary of this input is included in the staff report that's reviewed by the Planning Commission and Board of Supervisors. So to provide some context for the review process for development in the county, we have this graphic. And this image might be a bit fuzzy, but what you can see here in colored blocks are stages of the county development process. And I can talk more about the overall process, but the important takeaway here is that this project is really at the beginning of the process. The county zoning ordinance dictates what can be done by right on a property today. County staff review proposed developments to make sure that they meet the regulations within the zoning ordinance and protect public health, safety, and welfare. Staff legally cannot deny a by right use. The review process for a by right use is called an administrative review. But the process we are currently in is called a legislative review, which basically means that approval from the Board of Supervisors is required. This is because the applicant is requesting a use on the property that is not a by right use, but is what is called a special use. So special use applications have a higher level of review that includes review by county staff and other agencies as may be applicable. So VDOT, Albemarle County Service Authority, Riviera Water and Sewer Authority, Fire Rescue, and others. It's also reviewed by the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors at public hearings. Public hearings are held in an open forum, and they include presentations by staff, the applicant, and a public comment period. So you're welcome to attend those meetings and comment on this project at those meetings as additional opportunities beyond this meeting tonight. No date has been set for either of those meetings yet. So the aspects that are considered during the review of the special use permit include these 4 factors. So no substantial detriment, that the character of the nearby area is unchanged, that it's harmonious with the purpose and intent of the, in this case, rural area chapter of the comprehensive plan, the zoning district. And then the fourth one is consistency with the comprehensive plan. So next, I'm going to quickly provide some contextual information on this project. This proposal is for a cemetery use on, so that's a typo in this slide, on an approximately 20 acre area of what is a total area of 706 acre parcel. The proposed project is located at 3550 Raisford Lane in Earlysville on tax map 45 parcel 1. So the timeline of this review, staff is currently reviewing the proposal. We plan to have comments ready and sent to the applicant on April 30th. The Planning Commission public hearing, we do not have a date for yet, but it can be no later than June 15th this year unless extended by the applicant. The Board of Supervisors public hearing, again, this has no date, but it can't be later than March 31st, 2022 unless extended by the applicant. So if you would like to submit comments, there are multiple ways to submit comments. One option is to provide comments to me directly by Wednesday, May 5th. That's 1 week from today. And my email is below. And I'll pull up this slide again at the end of the presentation to give everybody a chance to write down my email should you want to email me. And right now I'm going to pass it off to our applicant, Chris Murray, to share more information about the project.
Thank you, Mariah. Oops. Thank you, Mariah. The Murray family and Panorama Farms has applied for a special use permit for a new cemetery on approximately 20 acres of the farm at the western entrance off of Raisford Lane. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of the project, what it is, why we want to do it, why we believe it should be done, where it is, and especially open it up to your questions, get to them as soon as I can. I'll show you first a context map. Can you see that, Mariah?
Yes.
Okay. So here is Panorama Farms is encircled in yellow. To your right is the airport. The top of the screen is Earlysville. And this is at the end of Raisford Lane, which is Route 661. And that jumble is the project. I hope that will be a little bit more clear when I get to a better map. Let's see. So I'll start at the beginning. You know, there are basically four kinds of cemeteries. There are private cemeteries on your own property. There's a graveyard, which is by definition next to a church. And then there are memorial gardens, or otherwise known as conventional cemeteries. And they're often owned by conglomerates, private equity, Hollymead on 29 North and Monticello Memorial Gardens are examples of those. Riverside is a private, and the Willow Mills is a privately owned cemetery. Those are the primary commercial cemeteries in the area. And then there's a green, or what we call a natural burial ground. There are approximately 250 of them in the country as of April of 2020. This would be, if we're granted the permit, this would be the fifth in Virginia, and it would be the first in Albemarle County. A green cemetery, or this idea, also known as a natural burial ground, is reviving an ancient practice that goes back, well, literally forever. As long as humans were buried, this was the way that it occurred. And actually, you know, 95% of the rest of the world still uses what we call a green burial or natural burial practice. And in present day, locally even, the Jewish and Muslim communities do this as well. A green cemetery is defined as essentially everything below ground is biodegradable. There's no embalming. That didn't occur until the Civil War, when you needed to get a fallen soldier from, Manassas to Massachusetts. There are no exotic wood or metal caskets, just a plain pine box, a shroud, sometimes a wicker basket. No concrete vault, no plastic flowers, no upright grave markers. Graveside services are often used basically instead of a funeral. I say often, not always. There are generally at Green Cemetery services, there are fewer attendees and they're smaller than conventional services. The average is maybe 12 to 15 people. Sometimes it's as few as 2. They are in general, though, much more intimate and much more family oriented than at conventional cemeteries. And more importantly, or as importantly, they are less dense. The average is 300 to 400 graves per acre. A large commercial cemetery might have 1,200. And if you were to drive through Brooklyn, New York, you would see a cemetery with close to 3,000 burials per acre. Just, it's basically room, you can't even walk between them. If you want to learn more about the green burial practices, there's something called the Green Burial Council. I think it's greenburialcouncil.org. That is the kind of clearinghouse for all things green cemetery in the country. Why a green cemetery and not conventional? Well, demographics primarily. The boomers, we boomers, are now burying our parents. And we're now looking for an alternative to the sort of conventional standard casket and vault burial or cremation. This is a viable, we hope to make it locally a viable option, third option for respectfully burying the dead. The second reason why is that there's a spiritual dimension. Some see it as a more natural. I'm quoting this from the monks in Northern Virginia. A more natural returning of the body to the earth from which it came. It embodies, so to speak, the dust to dust principle in the Christian tradition. And very importantly, it is more environmentally friendly than conventional burials. Forgive me for giving you some statistics, but they're, I think, interesting. American funerals account for 30 million board feet of casket wood, some of which comes from tropical hardwoods, 90,000 tons of steel, 1.6 million tons of concrete, and 800,000 gallons of embalming fluid. All of this is going underground into nearby, well, you can just imagine what the effect that could have on the environment. So it's clearly good for the planet to eliminate that. And it's also good for the community. But I think that if there's one point I could make that I'd like to just continue to reiterate is that the success of a green cemetery is measured by how little effect it appears to have on the surrounding landscape. It is designed to disappear, basically. And importantly for us, for the Murray family, it is a family legacy. And it's really the reason why we're doing this with a capital W. Our parents moved to Earlysville on this farm in 1953. And the farm has been an example of innovative and pragmatic environmental stewardship for almost 70 years. My mother and father were foam at the mouth environmentalists, and they're both dead, but they would, I think, love it that we were continuing to try to keep the farm in open space. And this, if we are allowed to do it, if we get the special use permit, and if the business is successful, it would enable the Murray family. We're now welcoming the 4th generation to continue this legacy as long as possible. In short, we want to maintain the farm as open space as long as possible. The question that faces every farm in our situation, though, is how do you pay for it? We believe and we hope that this will be the answer towards that. Revenue from this would enable future generations to pay for what is really it is our stated family mission to maintain open space. And not parenthetically, but it is a specific goal we share with the Albemarle County Comprehensive Plan. The chapter and verse of that is in the application, but I'll just touch on that. Most importantly, for us, Green Cemetery, we believe and hope will be an alternative to subdividing the land in order to raise revenue to maintain the open space. We don't want to do that, but we face financial realities. Future generations will face financial realities, and that could be the only way for them to do so. So we believe that a Green Cemetery will preserve the family as a farm for its agricultural uses that it's performing now. It'll be a rural asset, remain that, and will remain open space. So I will, having said all that, let me show you. This is a map of the corner of the property. Can you see that?
Yes.
This is the base map. Okay. On the larger map, you see this is focusing in on the corner of the property. On the left is Raisford Lane, and this here is the this is the 3550 Raisford Lane. That's the entrance, and it exists now. And this road going down the center exists as well. The red lines, this is a gas line, so nothing can occur near that. These blue lines at the bottom, the blue line on the right, these are streams, and we'd be maintaining a 100-foot stream buffer, which is mandated. There is the adjoining property has a septic field and a well. We maintain 100 feet from the water source as well, and 75 feet from the septic field. But this is the corner of the property that under consideration. And now we'll go to the next. And this shows the area, the yellow shaded area is the 20 acres that we are that are under consideration. We are keeping it as tight into the corner of the property as we are able to. You'll notice the arc is a setback from the closest residence at 3604 Raisford Lane. This is in accordance with a state law that mandates a 750-foot setback from the nearest residence. This sequesters almost, well, about 9.5 acres. So it's not insignificant, this amount of property in the setback. There are two other properties that are within 750 feet, and we have received waivers, which is, I put this in the application, we've received waivers for them, and they are reflected in this map. And then the last one is this one here. Overlaid on that same map are areas, are roughly areas that we see as being parking, and should we need it in the future, a pavilion, an outdoor covered space. This blue box in the center is where essentially where we would put the pavilion, and parking is this the blue area just above it. Um, on the left, the road going to the left, to the west, towards Raceford Lane, is proposed from on Raceford Lane. Here is what we call the 1953 farm entrance. This was the way that you could get into the backside of the farm. There is a gate. It's a road to the edge of the woods, and then it's an unimproved track across the field. As business warrants it, as we move forward with it, that we would anticipate that being a gravel road, and that overflow parking for larger outlying services would occur on both sides of that road. The total sort of named parking would be 50 overflow spaces and 10 head-in spaces near the pavilion. These numbers are based on having spoken with 10 or 12 other green cemeteries in the east, North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee. The average service is, it's hard to get it exactly. The average service is about 12 to 15 attendees. There are, obviously, there can be, you don't know who's going to die and who would want to be buried here, but obviously there can be an outlier service. There could be as many as 100 people. If that's the case, then we could, if this overflow parking doesn't work, then down here to the south, along the road, along the east to west, the east side of the road, there's an open field, it's flat, and we could park as many as 200 cars there if we needed to. The takeaway, though, is that these are smaller, more intimate services, and I get this from cemeteries that they're called hybrid cemeteries, where the land has both a green element as well as a conventional element. And those cemetery operators say that the conventional ones generally have far more attendees than the green ones. Green ones are much more intimate. That's where these numbers come from. That's pretty much it. I hope I've left enough time for questions. I guess, Mariah, you would designate who would ask them.
Mm-hmm. Typically, it takes a little bit for people to get questions in. So thank you, Chris, for your presentation. So from here, we're going to move to our question and answer set portion of the meeting tonight. So I just want to make sure everybody knows how to participate and ask questions. So I'm going to repeat those instructions again as to how to participate. So if you're joining us online, you can share your comments or questions by clicking the raise hand button, which is at the bottom of the toolbar. This will notify the meeting facilitator that you would like to speak and you'll be placed in the queue. If you're joining us by phone, you want to press *9 to raise your hand, and the same process will happen. You'll be put in the queue. We have a couple hands raised already. Thank you so much. If you, as you continue to have questions, feel free to continue to raise your hand or press *9, and we'll just go through the questions as they come.
All right. First, we have Nathan and Jen Reed. Please state your name and your address, and then you can start talking as soon as you unmute yourself.
This is Jennifer and Nathaniel Reed, and we live on 3435 Raceford Lane. We're down past the proposed site a little bit on this dirt road. We don't really have any issue with the green cemetery concept itself. Our issue is with the single lane dirt road that is coming into the site and the traffic issues that it could possibly pose when we are trying to leave our property. And also we have concerns with emergency vehicles being able to come down our lane, because we're kind of an aging population down that road. We're not, a lot of spring chickens living down there, and we would like emergency vehicles to be able to access our properties quickly. And the third issue that we have is the road is not kept up very well by the state anyway, because it is a dirt road and we battle that constantly on a yearly basis. And with a lot of traffic coming in for funerals, we wonder what that's going to do to the condition of the road. So is there some kind of contingency in place to maintain the road better, to even perhaps widen it as far as the entrance to Panorama Farms? So that's our questions.
I can speak to some of them, Ms. Reed. The road, these funerals are very small, and this business will start very slowly. I can guarantee that. The reason is that many of them, I'm told by other cemetery operators, that somewhere between 30 and 50% of the plot sales, so to speak, are called pre-need. They are reserved basically, and so we would not be having a great number of services from the start. I can say that with a lot of assurance, with no guarantees, but with a lot of assurance. Secondly, the width of the road to the entrance, the 3550 entrance, has been approved since 2012 for events with up to 200 people for weddings on the farm. And the EMT, the Earlysville Fire Department, state police, all approve that. And if we were to open up the additional entrance farther down the road at what we call the 1953 entrance, there is an even better sight line for that, according to VDOT. And so they actually would have preferred that to be the original entrance. As far as the width of the road, we can put up signage. We could let the public know when a service might be held. We could email or text to let you know. There are a number of sort of operational issues that we'd be glad to work out to mitigate that as much as possible. The road maintenance, I get that, and that's a VDOT responsibility, and it's a VDOT issue, and I think that we all share that problem, and there's that really is a VDOT responsibility and not ours.
I'll just add that this proposal is being reviewed by VDOT as well as Fire Rescue, which essentially makes sure that emergency vehicles are able to successfully access all of the properties and dwelling residential areas off of this road. So they will be reviewing it as well. And but it is a consideration.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak this time? Please use the raise hand feature or *9 if you're calling in and would like to speak. I do not have anybody else with their hand up at this time. Oh wait, somebody just raised their hand. Hold on. Well, let's see where it was. Well, I can't see who has their hand raised for some reason. Hold on.
I believe it's Linda Thompson.
Okay.
Find the name.
Well, my It's frozen, so I can't. Let me pop it out here and see if that'll help. Okay, there we go. Ms. Thompson, please feel free to start speaking. Give us your name and address, and you can start speaking as soon as you unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Linda Thompson, and I'm the daughter of Joan Ripley, who lives on the other side of the Ravenna River from Panorama Farms. And I actually live in Columbia, Maryland, but she told me about this meeting, and I thought I'd be able to attend. And my question is, the topic, Mr. Murray, that you mentioned is that we want, we want things to stay in perpetuity, the open space in perpetuity. But what would happen if 50 years down the road, the family or whoever owns the farm at that time decides that it does need to be sold for development? Is there something that would protect the area that is now hopefully going to be the burial ground?
Yes, ma'am, very much so. The state law mandates that a cemetery operator has to open a trust fund, and a certain percentage, I think it's 10% of any revenues has to be deposited in that trust fund. It's called a perpetual care trust fund. So that if a plot has been sold for pre-need, it guarantees that it will stay there. And secondly, if the cemetery did fail over time, the monies in that trust fund would be used for perpetual maintenance. There is I'm not precisely sure whether it needs to start with a bond that would, they would start it from the very beginning, or whether the state law will allow you to increase the revenue, the money in that trust fund until you reach a certain mass. But it is part of state law that it remain that way in perpetuity. It's also this is kind of esoteric, but a cemetery basically sells the right to bury there, not the land itself. So the land would stay in our, we would continue to own the land. It's just that we would have relinquished the right to bury in that spot. I'm not sure that helps, but.
Is there anybody else that would like to ask a question or make a comment?
I have a question, Mr. Murray, and it's actually going in the opposite direction. Should this use be successful on the lot, do you see this cemetery expanding in certain ways? Like would it go north towards the corner of the parcel, or back into the parcel, or would it be another area on the parcel?
That's a good question. While we want to plan to succeed, but we have to be aware of failure. If we do succeed, we would like to expand into the corner of the property as much as we can. The reason is quite simple. If it fails, the deeper into the property we have the cemetery. It is a perpetual use, and once it's a cemetery, it's always one, basically. And if it failed, we would risk having kind of a lollipop or a pipe stem or a donut hole in the middle of the property, surrounded by Panorama Farms. It doesn't make as much sense in land use terms. It doesn't make economic sense to have a donut hole in the middle of the property like that. Therefore, we would like to we want to put it into this corner of the property as tightly as we can. So, which is why we are working with the neighbors as closely as we can to push it into that area, so to speak. We have, however, we've applied for, what we've applied for is what we're willing to do, and consider it's not perfect, but it's okay. We will continue to negotiate with the neighbors to in order to use as much of that as we can. And we probably would reduce the amount of the property that is towards the south. In other words, what we would like to do would be to push the entire thing closer and closer to the north.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions at this time? Mariah, you might want to put your information back up so that they can, if anybody wants to email you, they can see your email address.
Sure, that is a great idea. I'll quickly scroll through the rest of this to the landing page. So again, there are no set dates so far for the Planning Commission meeting or the Board of Supervisors meeting. But that is usually set after, once the proposal gets to a more finite, once everything is kind of tweaked and we know exactly what the proposal is going to be, and it looks the way that is essentially approvable, and we worked out all the tweaks that we can, so that both parties are kind of satisfied with what is being proposed as much as can be worked out beforehand. So if you would like to submit comments, again, there's this meeting. There's also the opportunity to phone or email me before Wednesday, May 5th, which is 1 week from tonight. My email is mgleason@albemarle.org.
Anybody could call me or email me as well if you have questions that you'd like answered. My email address is cmurray1217@gmail.com.
Well, we are still on. If you have any burning questions, we are here to answer them. If you joined us late, my name is Mariah Gleason. I'm the lead planner for Albemarle County for this special use permit request for a cemetery use on 20 acres of tax map 45 parcel 1, excuse me. And then with us also tonight is Chris Murray, who is the applicant for this proposal. So if you have any questions for either of us, we're available now, should you have them, or follow up by email. But we do appreciate all the comments that were given tonight. It does go somewhere. It goes into the staff report for the Planning Commission, which is eventually reviewed by the Board of Supervisors. So all of your questions are not asked in vain. They are taken up in the—
Mariah, I have one person, the phone caller, that would like to speak.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Okay.
I'm putting them on.
All right. If you can, the person that's called in on 434-974-9130, you can unmute yourself and start speaking, give your name and address and start speaking whenever you're unmuted. They have their hand up and they—
Hear me now, please?
Yes, we can hear you now. Please state your name and address.
Sharon Davis at 3604 Ray Ford Lane. And one of my questions is, what is the proposed plan for the current entrance that's being proposed, the 3050 Ray Ford Lane? Is that road to remain dirt, a gravel road?
Is that the only question, Sharon?
Oh, it's not my only question. It's just the one I did not understand clearly on the presentation so
okay.
far that was one of the main questions.
The road, the existing road will remain the same. Will remain gravel. We will, it's kind of rutted right now, but we will upgrade it. But we have no intention to pave it. In fact, go ahead. The whole idea here is to create as little impervious surface as possible, so that we maintain gravel roads, gravel parking areas if we have to. It would be on grass as long as we could safely do it. So
will there be any landscaping or anything proposed to offset the effects of my property from this road? It's just the way my land is situated and my property is. It's just, you know how it is.
Sharon, just to clarify, you are the abutting neighbor to the north of the entrance.
Correct.
Okay.
We have talked about this before, Sharon, and we can, that there are all sorts of things. We can do plantings. Yes, that's one thing. We could, there's a possibility of a fence, whatever would be necessary for both of us to feel protected. We would landscape appropriately. That really is an operational issue as opposed to a development one. And it's something that we would continue to talk with you about what works. No objections to that at all.
From the county side, I will say that there is nothing mandating any landscaping or any buffering of any kind with this particular use. We have some uses and developments that require a landscaped buffer. This doesn't trigger any of those development aspects. In terms of the quality of the road, Fire Rescue has indicated, who does emergency vehicles, they've indicated that there may not need to be any road improvements as long as there is no structure on the property. So at the time that a pavilion might be put in place in the future, they would reassess whether the roads on the property would need to be improved. VDOT would also reassess it at that time. So for the level of intensity of development that is being requested right now, it does not look as though the gravel roads on the property will need improvement. But I say that with a caveat because that is my understanding at this point. This proposal is still under review by staff.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak? This is the last call for speakers or questions or comments on this item. All right, don't have anybody raising their hand.
Okay, well, let's wait about another minute just in case.
Okay, that's fine.
And close out. I'm gonna keep my information on screen just in case. But I would just like to thank everybody for coming tonight. Chris, again, thank you for your presentation and for everyone that joined us tonight and asking your questions. We really appreciate you coming and asking your questions, and it's always helpful for us in the review process. And I know that our planning commissioners and board of supervisors always appreciate knowing kind of what the surrounding neighbors, how they feel about these projects that we have. And it's true across the board. Carolyn, I think we've hit that point. I think
Okay.
we can probably wrap up early.
All righty. This recording will be on the website on Monday morning for people to review, and if they want to, watch it and see if they missed something or get Mariah's information. It'll be on the county calendar webpage. On the county calendar, just go back to the same meeting you clicked on today, and you'll find the recording there on Monday. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, Carolyn, for facilitating this meeting for us, and thank you,
Thanks, Carolyn.
Supervisor Galloway and Commissioner Bailey for joining us too.
Thank you. You guys have a great night.
Have a
Okay.
good night.
Bye-bye.